so beautiful. Hello my love, welcome to Italy, bienvenuti in Italia. I don't know why, I do a bit of a French accent when I try and speak Italian. So, we are in Italy, today's video is about Italy, but don't let that suggest that I have in fact caught up. The fact is that we've been in Italy now for several weeks, apart from that quick jaunt over to Ireland. And so here we are, I'm in Italy, talking about Italy, but I'm not anywhere near where we were in today's video. I'll catch up eventually. So as the title suggests, we had to take a break from van life, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But first, I have a bit of a confession. I've kind of lost my way with this whole YouTube lark. Not with the filming, but specifically with the editing. It's funny because when we were back in the UK and we were in our really quite drab magnolia and brown rental house, I remember thinking, oh, it's going to be so easy to make YouTube videos when we're on the road and we're in these beautiful destinations. And I mean, look at this, look where we're parked. And it's just going to be an absolute breeze. And it turns out it's actually kind of challenging. It's easy to film stuff because we're pretty much always somewhere beautiful doing something fun, right? It's kind of the point of van life. But it's the editing that's tripping me up. Because what I don't want for this channel is it to just become a long, endless stream of lovely visuals, but with a kind of, we went here, then we went here, then we went here, kind of rhythm to it. Get kind of boring. It's not really what I want to do. So what I've ended up with is reams and reams of like delightful and often beautiful footage, but with no clear purpose or direction or message for it. And so what I've had to do is, because I've been on the back foot, I've had to be like retrospectively going through the footage, thinking about, well, what was happening at that time? What do I really want to say here? And it's actually a bit of an editing nightmare. So anyway, that's my confession. I just like to keep it real on this channel and just let you know that sometimes, until I have this figured out, I'll just have some footage to share with you. I'm like, ta-da, don't know what exactly I want to say about this. And we can just keep rolling with that. But I'm still really, really committed to sharing just like the truth of van life. And this is that truth right now. So I thought, well, actually, let me share this with you. Okay, so back to the break from van life. We had to take a break, but not because we were sick of it. Quite the contrary, we had actually finally started to find a little bit of rhythm and routine and really find our feet with van life. But we were scheduled to meet my parents somewhere in Italy, somewhere that I'm gonna go out on a limb here and guess that most of you watching haven't been there. Maybe it's my sheer ignorance, everybody's been and everybody knew about this place, but we felt like we'd discovered a hidden part of Italy. You might be laughing if you know it really well, but for us that was the experience. So here's us heading out on what should have been an epic and wonderful journey through the Alps to northern Italy. So we are on our way out of France, but it's time to say au revoir to France and head to Italy. We're just going just inside the Italian border, but on the way we're going to be driving through the Mont Blanc tunnel, which is going to be exciting. So it's at least 2 hours later. The Mont Blanc tunnel turns out to not be exciting at all unless you like just sitting in a queue for the tunnel for 2 hours. We haven't even made it through yet. We're just waiting to pay a handsome sum of money for this pleasure. My advice, give it a wide berth, go a different route, not worth it. We made it, albeit several hours late. to this place in a valley in the north of Italy to see my parents. It was so good to see them, and this town was delightful, and I will tell you where it is, and this is where it gets kind of tricky, specifically to pronounce, and maybe it's just for my English tongue. Aosta? Still not certain. We did actually grill a waiter when we were out for lunch one day. We're like, how do you say that? And it was really quite hilarious. I wish I'd filmed it because he was saying it and we were all repeating it, and all of us were saying something basically slightly different. I was like, no, you don't have it. No, that wasn't it. Say it again. No, that's not it. Say it again. No. Regardless of however you correctly pronounce it, this was the most delightful place. We absolutely loved our time here. So beautiful. It's perfectly positioned to go on some really amazing hikes up in the Alps, and there are castles to explore in the area. So we're all just waiting to go into castle. We don't know how to pronounce it, do we? Venus? Venus?
A bit dangerous.
Yeah. There's a tour, so we're going to go and have a look inside. I think it's medieval Gothic. Do we know what year it was built?
Yeah, 12th century.
12th century.
1242.
1242? Town of Aosta itself is just so pretty, so quaint, like a cobbled street that runs through the middle. There are some really ancient ruins that were really fascinating to go and see. There was just an absolute myriad of places to eat. It's a real food kind of hot spot there, with just the most incredible and exquisite local delights and delicacies like cured meats, specific cheeses from that valley. We went out one evening and I had just the most divine truffle tagliatelle that had been hand cut. It was actually a really great fresh pasta place in the centre of town that we went to twice, and chose out some just delicious tortellinis and raviolis to have back at our apartment. I am a big foodie, and this place was just so delightful. If you are ever in northern Italy and you want a kind of foodie base for hiking in the day and just eating in the evening, let me know and I'll hook you up with some of my favourite places from there. But we just had the best week. Oh, and going back to our favourite place for dessert, we found the best patisserie place there, considering we'd just been in France and gorging ourselves on all manner of delightful French patisserie. It was really quite special to find somewhere this great in Italy, because it, it had a lot to live up to, but so pretty, so Instagrammable in there. And not only were the desserts that we got from there, which we took away to our apartment to have after the fresh pasta, oh, what an epic combination. But not only were they just so pretty and so delicious, but I'm an absolute sucker for an experience and the experience of going in there, choosing them. The service was impeccable. impeccable, and they packaged them up in these boxes and tied them up with like actual ribbon and put them in this like bougie bag. I was just absolutely in heaven. So definitely, if you're in Aosta, head over to that patisserie. Okay, so I'm dying to know, have you been there? Have you been to the Valley of Aosta? Do you know how to pronounce it better than I do? I'm guessing if you've been there, you probably do. Let me know in the comments, or if you're like, I never knew about this place, I must go there sometime, tell me. As I mentioned, we went on some hikes, and I'm going to insert some footage here of a hike that we went on this one particular day that was just so good. It was the kind of hikes that I'd been, you know, dreaming about when I've been thinking about van life. Just the scenery specifically, and the kind of, yeah, beauty of nature was just phenomenal. But you're gonna see, this is another great example of me not quite having this whole YouTube thing fully figured out yet. So I've been absolutely desperate to have my hills are alive, Sound of Music moment when we were in Switzerland. I was like, I just want to be up in a green alpine hill with cows around me with their bells clanging and dinging, and I want to skip and frolic and have that moment. And we didn't have that in Switzerland, so we found ourselves on this very steep hike. My parents in fact couldn't make it for all of the hike with us because it was just like a very steep gradient. It was blisteringly hot, and I got my moment. I found the cows with the bells. I could hear them in the distance. I was like, that's it, get the camera. I can hear cowbells. I'm quite excited. We're gonna keep on up, searching for the cows and their bells. Now, I didn't get to frolic, alas, because the owner of said cows was eyeballing me as I was filming, and I felt a bit self-conscious, so I didn't get to do my kind of like twirling and spinning and singing. But I still got to have that moment, that real alpine moment, and it just was so breathtaking. So here's another YouTube confession for you. When you start filming and filming regularly, you start to see things differently. You start to kind of like think, oh, that's pretty over there, or the way that line moves there and brings the eye in, or the way that the light is glimmering on the water. I wonder if I can catch that on my camera. I wonder if the microphone's going to pick up the sound of the waves. You know, you just start to kind of like observe things differently, which I like. I love that creative process, and I'm not saying I've got in any way that artist's eye or flair yet, but it's something that I'm keen to develop. But you also, the confession part is this, you also start to just anticipate things in a way that you might not have otherwise. So when my husband was researching this hike that we went on, he said, and at the very summit, if we make it there, because he knew it was going to be quite challenging, there is a glacier-fed lake. And something within me was like, hello, that sounds like it's going to be stunning. Wouldn't it be fun to get some footage of us swimming in this lake? Like, I could just imagine these crystal clear icy waters and the sun and the mountains behind, like, and then us in the lake. I had the whole thing in my head, so I'd anticipated this. And I was the only one who thought to, or was perhaps silly enough, to put on my, we would say in the UK, swimming costume, bathing suit, whatever, underneath my hiking outfits and my shorts and my t-shirt. Swimming costume material is not really breathable, is it? And putting that on what would otherwise have been a breathable outfit made a very sweaty day for me, right? The things we do for our art. I'm joking, obviously, right? I don't know that this is art. Now, this meant two things. First is that actually I was the only one of us prepared for this swim. Not only was I prepared, but because of the sweatiness of the outfit, I enjoyed those icy waters so much more. I was so hot. It was like in the early 30s temperature-wise. I was so hot after this. I think it was about 2 hours or an hour. I felt like 2 hours uphill. That when I got into these icy waters, it felt amazing. There is something about that really hot then really cold immersion experience, isn't there? I know that there's like science that backs it up. Ask Wim Hof, he knows about it. So nice, so cold. And I really felt it. When I came out, I felt literally euphoric. The endorphins were pumping. It was amazing. So I was the only one of us which was actually prepared, because I'd anticipated it because of my YouTube brain, right? So I feel like although it caused that sweatiness and a bit more suffering on the way up, I was glad of it in that moment. Oh. Now here's the other point though, and here's really the crux of the confession. While this was really fun and I had a fun time shooting it and the footage looks cool, this is some footage that sat on my hard drive for weeks now because I don't really know what to do with it other than to say I swam in a glacier-fed lake, here's me doing it, you're welcome. So this is just another example of me not fully having this figured out yet. So those are my confessions out of the way, for now at least. I'm sure other things will come up. We really just enjoyed this week with my parents. It was delightful. The Airbnb we stayed at was amazing. It had high ceilings and parquet wood floors and was decked out with what appeared to be like antiques. It was a vibe in and of itself, and it had all this kind of wood paneling. I loved it. It was actually really fun to work from there a little bit as well. As lovely as it was, and I wouldn't have changed anything about this week, I was actually missing the van by the end of the week. Oh. So that beeping, I don't know if you can hear that. We're staying at this little, it's not really a campsite, it's just kind of like a parking area for vans. There's this guy, Nonno, which I believe is Italian for grandpa, right? He shows up in his van either every day or every other day, and he opens up the back doors and the side doors. He's got this chiller van and he sells like salamis and cheeses and breads and things. And he's really lovely. So I wonder if K-Van's going to go and get some bread. Yeah. It's part of van life, Italy. Love it. What was I saying? So yes, as delightful as it was, I, by the end of the week, was actually really missing the van and really itching to get back. And I think it's because we'd only been in the van for about a month before we stayed in Aosta. See, I can't ever do it. As beautiful as this apartment was, it didn't have any outside space. It was perfectly positioned to be able to walk into the town. Like we were right next to the old, like the historic centre of the town, which was ideal. So perfectly positioned, but it didn't have outside space, didn't have a balcony, there was nowhere to go in the morning. So I was doing my morning mindset routine inside, which was fine, but I've become so used to just waking up and coming out of the van. It's like the first thing I do in the morning. These two sleep in and I just get up and I just come out. This morning I watched the sunrise and it was absolutely stunning. It was so pink, like the most vivid, hot neon pink. And I just really like that time out in nature, out doing my yoga, doing my mindset routine, just that time with myself. And like right here, the van is literally 1 meter away, and here we are on the sea. And so I'm so used to that time every morning outside. And so by the end of the week, I was starting to feel the lack of that morning time. So we didn't take a break because we had to, from a sense of needing to get out of the van or being annoyed with each other or not enjoying the tight space. None of that actually. We were all actually really excited to get back in the van and back on the road. So that was actually really lovely, which is kind of fortunate, isn't it, when you realise that the dream life that you've created is in fact the dream life that you want to be living. So until next time, my love, and I expect we will still be in Italy, go and live your dream life. Bye for now.